Mr. Max. I forget you want to play twice. So, hello.
Perfect. We've got everyone here. We've got all our panelists here as well. Attendees are trickling in, so we'll get started without any further delay. So first of all, welcome to all our esteemed speakers and the attendees as well. We have a very interesting session today with a lot of dignitaries joining us from all over the world. So I'll quickly share my screen and we'll get started right away. Yes. Vinod sir, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, Jason, carry on.
Perfect. Yeah. So today's topic is good governance in ESG and how it is a catalyst for long-term impact. And this is the agenda for today, how we will be moving through our speakers. I'll be moderating this event. I'll start off with a few housekeeping rules, basic rules. This event is being recorded, and I'm sure all of you have clicked in the form as well. We have got Vijay sir, who is our CEO and founder of HLB HAMT, setting the tone for today's session with his take on governance in the UAE. We've got our keynote address from Mr. Humperdink Jackman, who's joining us from UK. We'll have brief introductory sessions to all of them. We've got Natashia Lee, who's joining us from UK as well. We've got Max Viiask, who we are lucky to have him here in Dubai, joining in from, and we've got finally Mr. Vinod, our head of ESG department, and the global chair of sustainability for HLB International, closing it off. So this is the agenda, and this is what we're going to move forward with. I think we lost the first few minutes with a technical issue. Never mind, I will just get started. And what we are here today for is basically learning about a very important aspect of ESG and a term that has received so much notice of late. Depending on who you ask, ESG is a business essential, a past term, a danger, or a distraction even. Recently, the subject of ESG has garnered significant attention from regulators, corporate leaders, investors, and politicians. So while we take a deeper dive into the governance aspect of it, uh, an aspect which is often overlooked, we tend to go to the environmental and social side of it. We will have our experts start, sharing their knowledge and their real world experience with us. So I'd like to invite Mr. Vijay Anand, who's the CEO and partner and founder of HLB HAMT. He has played a pivotal role in implementing deep domain expertise and a quality to the organization, an effective facilitator who has the ability to identify potential risk factors in stakeholders' perspective. Vijay sir facilitates the available resources prudently for its solution and prevention. So over to you, Vijay sir.
I'm sorry, I've lost the screen.
Yeah. Vijay sir, am I audible?
I hear you, Mr. Jason.
I'm sorry,
Vijay sir, you're on
just
mute, I think. Yeah.
It's a slight technical problem here. Bear with me. What's this? Sorry. Try to. I'll get it to show my screen. Hold on.
Hi.
Yes, Vijay sir, now we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank
Please.
you. Thank you for your introduction. Whatever technical glitch you had, yeah, I'm sorry for that. It's absolutely a very great honor to be here, discussing a topic so crucial to UAE's vision for sustainable growth with respect to governance. As we all understand, strong governance is the backbone of a sustainable enterprise. But in the UAE, it takes a further step ahead on a uniquely strategic role. As we stand on the global stage, the UAE's commitment to excellence, transparency, and accountability has positioned as a beacon for resilient business ecosystems. Governance always frameworks in the UAE are designed not to just for a compliance, but for transformation. Whether through progressive regulatory reforms, initiatives like Vision 2030, or the increasing alignment with the international ESG platforms, we are witnessing governance evolve as a catalyst for innovation and investment confidence in the public. Why does this matter? Why it's so important? Because in today's interconnected world, robust governance safeguards long-term value. It protects organizations from ethical pitfalls, promoter investment, trust, and creates a fertile ground for sustainable growth. For businesses operating in the UAE, embracing best-in-class governance isn't optional. It's a competitive advantage always. At HLB HAMT, we have seen firsthand how governance excellence helps companies weather uncertainty, align with global expectations, and drive sustainable impact. Governance is not just about policies and audit. It's about embedding a culture of integrity, transparency, and accountability at every level we involve. As the UAE continues to grow as a global business hub, let us ensure that governance remains the topmost priority and keystone of this journey, not just for compliance, but for a future where the business and societies thrive together. I wish you a very, very happy listening. We have eminent speakers on the subject this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vijay, sir. That was great. You have really set the tone for today's webinar. And I think it's it's the right direction for us to move ahead with. And as you said, you're totally and absolutely accurate in integrating a culture of proper governance and good governance into all our organizations and to ask ourselves those key questions. So thank you so much, Vijay, sir, for that. It was absolutely fabulous. We'll go right into the meat of today's webinar. And we have a keynote speaker, Mr. Humperdink Jackman, who's also the CEO of ESG Pro in UK. Hump lectures on ESG, governance, risk, and supply chain at both University College of London and the Kingston University, and has served as a consultant to both PwC and KPMG on major financial crime investigations. He frequently debates ESG with politicians on national television in the UK. And as someone who has had the honor and privilege to know him a little, personally, this does not cut it. This introduction is merely something we had to fit in as a golden paragraph. Hum's stellar career has expanded way beyond this, and I will let Hum take us through the very basics. And for those in our audience, they could really learn something from this session. It would be a great value addition to have someone like Hum speak to all of us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, okay, good morning and good afternoon to everybody who has joined today, and thank you for your time. The one thing about me when I present a PowerPoint is I don't read every word off every slide. So let's get stuck in and let's discuss what is ESG, environment, social, and governance, and how is it going to really benefit your business? Or any organization. It's not just about businesses, non-profit organizations, higher educational institutions. This applies to everybody. But the first thing, the very clear point is ESG. An ESG rating even is not a measure of good versus bad. ESG reporting, an annual sustainability report based on ESG, is fundamentally a statement of fact. What is the business doing in respect to environment, social, and governance topics? What does it intend to do in the near term? And what are the measures, what are the guidelines, the framework as to how that progress is going to be measured? That is ESG. So it's not about getting a bad rating or a good rating. It's how complete is your explanation. The presentation has disappeared, but next slide when you can. The presentation is not on the screen. There we go. All right, next slide, please. So ESG, fundamentally, it's all about, since ESG was conceived in about 2002, the United Nations developed 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These are primarily at country level. How will every business improve? How will it contribute to reducing poverty, hunger? How will it contribute to reducing inequality or innovation, to reduce energy? So these SDGs, these are global aspirations to which all of us, if we run our businesses very well, that we contribute to these very noble goals. Let's move on. Next slide. So sustainability also, is often interchanged with ESG, although sustainability often refers, for some people, just to, for instance, pollution and carbon emissions and so on. But it's all interchangeable. But it is the #1 topic in boardrooms. It has completely displaced cybersecurity and digital transformation. This is the topic every boardroom is concentrating on. And this is part of why very much this presentation, this little lecture, is about the how and the why. Now, ESG and sustainability is not about stifling business. It's about actually helping business balance its care of people and its care for the environment with profit. Profit is good, but profit doesn't have to be gained only at the expense of looking after people and the planet. And investors, consumers, suppliers, everybody expects businesses to focus, to look ahead. Don't just extract profit at the expense of people and planet. And very much a recent survey, Business Leader Survey, highlighted that being sustainable is absolutely essential to being successful. We're going to explore this in quite some detail. But very much when you discuss ESG, when you're considering all of this, it's about integrity. It's not about just making bold, lovely statements about how good your business is. It's about providing the evidence as to exactly that you are what you say you are. It's about integrity. Can you trust the business and its website and its communications and its marketing? If they say their product is safe, that they look after their people, is it real? ESG is a framework or a series of many different frameworks which come together to evidence this information, these statements. Three themes gas, what the gases which we put into the environment, which are referred to in terms of how equivalent they are to pumping out carbon dioxide. Supply chain auditing, because any business is only as good or as strong or as weak as its suppliers. And supply chain auditing is very much about, it's not just risk. Are they going to be able to get the goods from country X to country Y over the sea? That's part of supply chain management, but it's also about stamping out, monitoring who you are trading with. Are they polluting? Are they abusive to their workforce, and so on? And then the actual reporting function of ESG, there are there's about 600 different global frameworks, but there are about 6 or 7 primary frameworks, question banks, if you like, which a business may respond to say how we are reporting, how we are determining that what we are doing matches what we say we are doing. Next slide. Now, many of the audience will have heard terms such as, "Oh, this is woke," and so on. It doesn't really relate to real business. I want to dismiss these concerns right away. Effective, transparent ESG and corporate social responsibility programs can decrease employee turnover by up to 50%. How does that impact a business's profitability? If you think about all of the cost of recruiting and training and onboarding and looking after a new employee, that's a huge impact on any business. So if you can decrease your turnover, you are increasing profitability. And it's a fact that I don't think anybody ever left a business where they are fundamentally happy. So long-term workers work harder for the business. They care more. And let's look at the audience. Who are we when we want to attract new talent and keep our best talent in a business? 71% of employees aged 34 and younger say they want to work at a company that matches their personal values. So talent acquisition and keeping the best talent is impacted directly. But look at this last point here. 28% of companies who prioritize diversity in hiring, in other words, taking people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and so on, balancing male and female, they see on average a 28% higher revenue, higher net income, and a 30% increase in profit margins. Let's think about that. That's 30% higher profit margins based on ESG. Keep going. Next slide, please. Now, data protection is a human right. Very recent cases show that anywhere up to even $7 million is the cost of a corporate data breach. And for a small business, for an SME, it can still be hundreds of thousands. But if your website, if your systems are offline for longer than 3 days, you can lose 20% of your clients. That doesn't take long. So data protection does actually fall into ESG. And now you've spent all of your time and energies building up your business, you've got to consider that when you go to attract more funding, 85% of institutional investors are prioritizing where they direct their investments on only businesses with ESG, because those businesses represent lower risk. So 61% of investors see strong ESG as lower risk, higher quality, and worthy of spending more money. And for instance, if there's anybody in the audience from the hotel leisure industry, there's absolute evidence that consumers to that sector especially will willingly pay 9% extra to know that they're engaging with a sustainable business, sustainable hotel, for example. Next slide, please. Next. Right. I'm not going to read every slide on this because there is far too much information, but let's focus on the key points here. A strong ESG performance manages your resources and your people better. It's more efficient. And more efficient, well internally regulated businesses succeed where weaker businesses which have poor sustainability practices, where they fail. Next. And when you're working to measure your carbon emissions, you're reducing your energy consumption. You're being more efficient. You're prioritizing where to invest in efficiencies. Whereas generating excess packaging or waste all causes a disposal cost, or now with the EU and UK CBAM, carbon border adjustment mechanisms, can incur extra taxation, maybe for your customers. Well, you want to avoid that. Regulatory intervention is something very important, because if you are well managed and well structured, then you're less likely to breach regulatory rules and governance rules, and therefore pay money and fines. And very importantly, with the rise of the EU CSRD regulation, you can prevent your business from being blocked from the entire EU and thereby ultimately global markets. Next. Productivity is very close to everybody's heart if you run a business. As I said earlier, nobody left a business where they're perfectly happy. A business which looks after its people as well as driving for profit means that you have more motivated employees. And motivated employees work harder. And they refer your business to other people who should come on board, the best talent. And there's too many businesses out there, large and small, where employees do not wish to work for that business. They move on, and that increases your employment costs. It's a very, very important slide here. Next. So, as you attract investment, as you're purchasing new capital equipment, how do you establish the optimal return on that investment? Very often, businesses invest money on an asset which is going to become what's these days called a dirty asset. This morning I was reading that a major building, a very hugely prestigious building in London next to the famous Tower Bridge, built in 2002, fundamentally it is now considered a dirty asset. The hundreds of millions of pounds spent on the construction have been fundamentally wasted because they didn't factor in energy efficiency. Dirty assets, so it became a dirty asset, and now it is a stranded asset. It has no value until many, many tens of millions are further invested in it to improve its sustainability record, its pollution levels. So long-term vision is always superior to short-term gain. Next slide. Next slide. Can we have the next slide? Jason? Slight technical difficulty here. I think we'll get back on track in just a moment. Jason, I can't see the presentation.
Just a moment, he will be back. Yeah, just got
Okay.
hand up.
Okay, thank you for that. It's always fun running webinars. You never know what's going to happen. Now, I think this is I really like this slide very much. 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Now, if you think you're going to start doing things differently, think of how many times we look at the news. It's instant news these days. We don't even have to wait for the newspaper tomorrow. One misstep and major corporations can see billions wiped off their value in seconds. The stock market is active. Even a small business, one misstatement on social media can destroy a person or a business. One investigation can destroy. ESG has one major, I can't name them, but one very major corporation said to Natashia Lee and myself not so long ago, he said, the practice of ESG as we deliver it with our partners like HLB is entirely about keeping our clients off the front page of the newspapers. Think about it. Next slide.
Yes, that was your last slide. Thank you so much. I think we'll have to hand it over to Natasha from here onwards.
Yes.
But really good points. Thank you so much for that. I'll start with introducing Natasha. She's a corporate governance specialist from ESG Pro in UK. And Natasha has been an advisor to the UK government on ESG matters and has chaired government cabinet office meetings, and in this role co-drafted the current legislation enabling people from Hong Kong to resettle in the UK. Natasha is a leader in the field of integrating social value and governance, and she works very closely with not only the UK government, but other EU governments as well. So I'd like to hand over to Natasha, and she can start off with what is corporate governance.
Thank you. Well, what is corporate governance? At the base, it's a system of rules, practices and processes by which a company is directed, how the company is controlled and held accountable, and it outlines the framework for achieving a company's objectives while balancing the interests of its key stakeholders. These include your shareholders, your management, customers, suppliers, financiers, government, and broader community. So the tie between the ESG and the topic of governance, governance is the foundation of credible ESG. Without good governance, the social and environmental pillars mean very little, because governance is where you create the evidence and you substantiate the claims you're making. And good corporate governance is very much about proving the activities of the company. Next slide, please. So we've seen a lot of headlines in recent years, and this particular Rupert Stadler, former head of Audi, was the first Volkswagen board member to be sentenced for fraud related to the 2015 emissions scandal. It rocked the German auto manufacturer and was known as Dieselgate. Stadler was fined 1.1 million euros, that's $1.2 million, and received a suspended sentence of 1 year and 9 months, because good governance is risk mitigation. It's proof of investor confidence and operational efficiency. And there is a movement to hold directors and officers accountable for the activities of the company, and they have an obligation to their shareholders, and that obligation is to make sure that the company is in the green without going into the red, being a green company that doesn't put you in the red. But by being inactive towards the ESG, that is not acting in the best interest of the company. And when a company loses funding or investment due to poor management of ESG, that is in direct competition with the role of the directors. So being proactive in your governance and in your ESG, that insulates you from further risks and harm. Next slide, please. And this speaks to the issue of honesty. Most of the shareholder litigation cases that are arising recently are because of a lack of honesty and transparency. In this example, we see a changing in the wording of disclosures. Providing false and misleading information about a company's ESG practices in their financial reports or their sustainability disclosures, especially in the Middle East, where there is a huge preference for integrated financial ESG reporting. Those reports are expected to be verified by third parties and to be substantiated. When a company overstates their positive impact or their understanding of the negative impacts on environment and society through their activities, these companies are deceiving their stakeholders. This includes the investors, the customers, the regulators, and it's leading to potentially fraudulent financial gains or reputational benefits. The deceptive practice skews investment decisions and public perception. It undermines the integrity of the financial reporting because the ESG report is integrated in that financial report. So omission of the facts is also a form of deceit. When you change a disclosure to how many incidences of corruption and instead you respond in six documents worth of text explaining why it's such an important topic to your company, the disclosure asked for a number and you are expected to provide that number. And yet with ESG, there are ways to credibly report that information to a third party, but not have to include it in public facing disclosures. There are honest ways to keep corporate sensitive information away from the public eye in your ESG reporting. Next slide, please. And why this is so critical beyond the litigation fears in terms of shareholder litigation is the fact that greenwashing is an accountancy fraud. So looking at the topic of deceit, greenwashing, the modern day's examples of greenwashing range from misleading product advertising and in respect of the production of inaccurate investment fund descriptions and the wildly exaggerated sustainability credentials that are reported in those beautiful glossy corporate grade reports. And one of the biggest areas of concern is actually looking at how funds are representing themselves to investors. 72% of investors globally don't believe companies will achieve their ESG commitments. And with several high-profile greenwashing investment cases hitting headlines in recent years, the reputational risks and the subsequent litigation risks are substantial. And the best way to avoid those is through third-party verification of the data you are submitting publicly. Next slide, please. Companies will have to prove the evidence behind their credentials. If you have no data, you have no defense under the EU Claims Directive. And you will have 10 days to justify any green claims or face the effective and proportionate penalties. Next slide, please. So the importance of governance, I think I've covered that. Companies with robust governance benefit from improved financial performance and many other benefits. But weak governance leads to regulatory and reputational risk and harm. Next slide, please. So the anti-bribery and corruption, the surveys show repeatedly that anti-corruption is the most important ESG issue in investment decisions. It outranks even emissions reporting. Shareholder rights and climate change fall behind anti-bribery and corruption. Why? Because good governance is the foundation of every claim you are otherwise making. Next slide. So the good corporate governance, it serves as the backbone for responsible business conduct. It fosters trust and it ensures that the companies are operating in a manner that is accountable and aligned with their long-term vision. Next slide. As the push for integrated financial and non-financial reporting is growing, HLB is partnering with ESG Pro to offer holistic advisory services, enabling clients to lead in sustainable practices while achieving their strategic goals. This collaboration positions the accountancy firm and industry at the forefront of the ESG agenda. It's driving meaningful change because accountancy firms are at the epicenter of good corporate governance. And we know that good governance is the foundation of credible ESG. Next slide, please. Transparency is a critical topic. We always talk about ESG. The three core tenets are honesty, integrity, and transparency. The benefit of partner-client solutions delivered by an accountant alongside an ESG specialist leads to your financial literacy and the ESG knowledge to come together and create an embedded experience of expertise. We are looking at the facts of the financial reporting into the disclosures of a substantiated and third-party verified ESG reporting metric. This reduces the risks of green and social washing and ensures that there are two levels of data verification occurring on your reporting. Next slide, please. Now, I love this quote. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. But that brings us to the root of the challenge, which is data and data quality. We've spoken about the reporting purposes, the benefits, and the approach to integrity and reporting efforts of both financial and non-financial reporting. But good reporting and credible reporting requires data first. And non-financial data is a considerable undertaking due to the breadth and depth of ESG as a topic. There are over 36 material topics in the GRI, Global Reporting Institute's framework. And many of those data points are actually long-form responses. They are what we call qualitative data. So how do you quantify the statements that a company is making? But just because it's difficult to measure doesn't mean it can't be measured. And that challenge is an expectation held by every critical stakeholder of your business that you will achieve this. And our added piece to this is that you can't measure what you can't see. So good data is the starting point. Now, there are a lot of regulations coming into force looking at supply chains, and your CSRD and your CSDDD is all about supply chain due diligence. And this directive is going to name and shame companies. Up to 5% of global turnover is going to fall into the CSDDD directive. And there will be a prohibition from public procurement for companies that cannot justify their due diligence on their supply chain operations. My favorite case in recent years on supply chain affecting consumer activities would be the Uyghur cotton crisis experienced by Nike. And it shows that there is a corporate responsibility by big business to know what the activities are down to the material sourcing in their product lines. Next slide, please. So we have two directives, CSRD and then the CS3D, that look at supply chain. Supply chains are the most complex component of good corporate governance. They're also the biggest challenge. The larger the company, the more difficult it is to map your supply chain, let alone audit it. Supply chain audits are looking at reducing the risks, reducing costs, reducing carbon, enhancing reputation, and promoting efficiency. It is a business benefit to audit your supply chain. Next slide, please. The attention that your business is paying to health and safety, modern slavery, and emissions, these are all environmental and social topics. But again, you need to also audit your suppliers' governance practices, because otherwise, how can you trust the claims that they are making? Just as your consumers and clients are asking this of you, you need to ask it of your suppliers too. Next slide, please. So on top of auditing from an ESG perspective, there is an angle for auditing your supply chain for their emissions. If you work proactively with your suppliers to create consistent and quality carbon data, you can then proactively support your suppliers in reducing their emissions. And in reducing your supply chain emissions, you are reducing your scope 3 emissions. And that is organic, and it is rapid. And if you can reduce your scope 3 emissions by 50% through your supply chain, that is a lot more cost effective for your business than trying to reduce your scope 1 and 2 emissions, which account for about 10% of your operational emissions as an organization. So your money is better spent investing in your supply chain auditing than in solar panels in the first instance. Not to say that those aren't also relevant. Next slide, please. So how do you do this? The Global Good Governance Pledge, and this is a new initiative that we are launching. It's a global movement where we are asking businesses to commit to good governance first. This is the starting point for your companies to start ESG credibly. This pledge has 3 key commitments: to audit your internal governance framework. This was done through any good ESG framework reporting. The second commitment is to certify that your tax practices are transparent and in accordance to the GRI 207 disclosures. And the third commitment is that you will audit your supply chain for ESG risks. It is self-funding and it is based on social value. The first step is deciding to embrace the core tenets of ESG, which are honesty, integrity, and transparency. Becoming a trusted leader in your industry by making this pledge. It demonstrates your willingness to encourage and facilitate good governance, not just for your own company, but through your supply chain. So we are asking businesses to join this international movement alongside HLB. Next slide, please.
Yes, this is your last slide, Natashia.
Because I'm aware of time, but the
Yes.
GRI 207 is a set of disclosures specifically designed for tax, and we offer a certification for these disclosures working alongside HLB. They are your accountants, they are verifying the numbers, and we are aligning their tax practices and service to the GRI. Next slide.
Yes, Natasha, that was your last slide.
Brilliant.
Well, we're pushing past time a little bit, so I'll rush. But thank you so much for that, Natasha. As always, very enlightening and very, very fruitful knowledge sharing session. And this is definitely where we have found a very strong point of synergy between ESG Pro and HLB HAMT, where we are already doing the accounting and the tax advisory for a lot of companies ranging from SMEs to the large organizations here in the UAE and extends beyond UAE to the MENA region as well. So there is definitely a very strong synergy between our organizations. And this is something which is good to go already and it's in the works. So, thank you so much, Natasha, for that. With that, I will move to our next speaker and our final speaker for the day. We have got Max Viiask, who's joining us. He's a versatile and transformational leader. He's the CEO of Fullbin MENA, and he hails from Sweden. And he has recently been nominated amongst the top 500 CEOs in the world, and around 8th ranked in the UAE. So we have got Max joining us on his topics, which is the ROI on good governance, because that is what everyone looks at, and that is the first question which pops into everyone's mind. What is the returns on my investment? If I put in this much, what do I get back? So I think we've got the right person to speak on that with us. So Max, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jason. And it will be a bit of a summary of the previous speakers, Mr. Hump and Natasha as well. I would like to talk about how strong governance actually can drive performance and resilience. And so let's dive into the importance of governance for financial and reputational success. So as we said before, Volkswagen has been involved in one case before, and it's resulted in heavy fines and also actually a jail service for the board chairman of the board. Also Enron and many more, British Petroleum, etc. So these are just examples of failures, so to say. And I can also say, in that perspective, I have more than 20 years experience from the bank and finance sector in the Nordics and Europe. I can tell that there are severe consequences facing those banks not complying with the EU or the US regulations. There are heavy fines, yes, but the most important is the reputational risk, the consequences of brand damaging, losing trust in the market. That's really the worst thing here. So the governance is just not just a requirement, it's a strategic advantage. Strong governance builds resilience in volatile markets. It enhances transparency, improves risk management, and also fosters trust. Our research shows that companies with diverse boards performs 25% better than their peers, which is a very strong figure. From our side, representing Fullbin, we can leverage IoT solutions and a smart digital platform to monitor and ensure governance across all your operations. So we're in the digital part in this chain of suppliers. Next page, please. So the strong governance, it delivers financial and reputational gains. It aligns stakeholders, ensures compliance, and drive long-term success, to be a very summarized picture. Next picture, please. Next slide. So governance is evolving with trends like increased digitalization, sustainability demands, and also, as we spoke before, about stakeholder activism. And companies, they must stay ahead of these trends and in order to maintain a strong governance framework. And finally, next slide, please. Some simple steps to evaluate governance maturity in your company. With a straightforward checklist, you can assess your organization's governance health and identify areas for improvement. And finally, the last slide, please. Good governance, it's more than a safeguard. It's the foundation for innovation. It's a foundation for trust and long-term resilience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Max. As always, your slides have always been crisp and to the point, and have always envied the fact that you could share a lot of information with very minimal, prompts or bullet points on your screen. Thank you so much for Max and your experience as a banker in the Nordics for 20 years is a very strong value addition for all of us. And I think while we move to the closing, we are almost right on time, I would say. We've got Mr. Vinod Nambiar, who is the VP ESG and Sustainability at HLB HAMT, but he wears a lot of different hats, proverbially speaking. And one of them is the Global Chair of Sustainability at HLB Global and HLB CARES. So I'd like Mr. Vinod to please, cover the key
Thank you,
takeaways from
Jason.
today's. Yeah,
Thank
please
you.
go ahead,
Thank
sir.
you for the wonderful introduction. And it was a wonderful session altogether. And in closing, we understood that governance is not simply a mechanism for oversight. It is really a strategic foundation that ensures resilience, builds trust, and drives sustainable progress. The United Arab Emirates' commitment to governance provides a clear blueprint for how organizations can thrive in an ever-changing world. We all know that it is very fast-paced, fast-moving, the world it is. To summarize, the key takeaways from today's discussions are governance is a catalyst for resilience. Strong governance frameworks enables organizations to adapt to change and manage risk effectively. Trust and transparency. Yes, effective governance builds trust with the stakeholders, investors, and society by promoting transparency and accountability. And the third point is alignment with the national vision. Definitely, we are in the United Arab Emirates. In the United Arab Emirates, governance supports strategic goals like Vision 2030 and Net Zero 2050. And the next is investor confidence. A robust governance is essential for attracting and retaining investment in an increasingly discerning global market. And ESG integration, governance is the enabler that ensures environmental and social initiatives are implemented effectively and ethically. And last, culture of integrity. True governance successes comes from embedding a culture of integrity, ethics, and accountability at every organization's level. By prioritizing governance, we are not only safeguarding our organizations, but also contributing to the resilient, innovative, and sustainable future for the UAE. As we see that, we can make, for if it is 50-year-old brand, 5 minutes is enough to completely collapse. So nothing more. Thank you so much for everyone. And over to Jason, please.
Thank you so much. So that was beautifully summarized. I think our whole webinar draws to an end with that. And I would also like all of you to actively participate, share any questions that you might have, and we will be responding to them in our LinkedIn posts. And immediately after this webinar, for all those who have attended, there will be a certificate issued directly to your email addresses with 3 signatories. We've got Mr. Humperdink Jackman from UK, CEO of ESG Pro. We've got Max as the second signatory, the CEO of MENA. And finally, we have Mr. Vijay Anand, who is the CEO of HLB HAMT. So please do share these certificates on your social media, on LinkedIn, and tag the signatories and their respective organizations. And I think this is the first in the long line of webinar series that we'll be conducting, where we bring in subject matter experts and have these kind of not too long, not too short knowledge sharing sessions. But yeah, thank you all for attending this.
Jason, one moment. There is a question from someone. Will tax in the next upcoming year will be organized?
1 second. I think I'll stop sharing my screen. Will tax in the next upcoming year will be organized. So this is something that we can do from this year onwards itself. And the collaboration, the way it works with ESG Pro and HLB HAMT is the companies for which we have already handled the tax advisory, they can all actually avail this benefit or this option, in which we can give them a certificate along with the credentials of ESG Pro, saying that their tax practices are aligned with the GRI. So, that is something we can do right away from this year onwards. But again, so this year and all the years coming forward, we can do it. I think yeah. Thanks, Akshana.
I think one more, yeah, Akshan, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And please do share any questions that you have, and we'll get back to you in the coming days with that. And with that, I think we should wrap up this webinar. We have, passed it by 4 minutes, but that's not too bad. Thank you again to all our dignitaries, Mr. Hump, Max, Natasha, Vijay sir, Vinod sir, and all the attendees. And we look forward to having you on in the upcoming webinars as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Jesus.